Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show. I take a deep dive into a particular film, and this is the penultimate episode of my Miyazaki series, which is very sad because absolutely loved going through his filmography. This is one of the few directors where I'm like, I've seen all these movies before. So
Mhm.
this wasn't something new going through, but they're all pretty great. So it's been a wonderful journey. And I'm joined by two of my friends. One, my buddy Joe. You might have seen him in the movie club and collaborating plenty other places, as well as Muppet That Movie on my talk show, which is always a fun time. But Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
You got to be your brother.
And my buddy Foster from SiftPop. And Foster is a podcaster himself with Also See and Cinema Paradiso as well.
Franchise
Franchise
Paradiso.
Paradiso. See? Ah,
Also
also
see.
great movie. Uh, it makes for a great title for a podcast. And Foster, of course, has collaborated quite a few times with me and was one of my pals doing a handful of those John Ford movies over 80 weeks. But Foster, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me as always.
And for those who haven't tuned in before, we have three segments on this show, and we have coming attractions. It's August 15th. This episode is coming out. There are a lot of things coming out. There's even a couple coming out a couple days before. Gendy Tartakovsky thought it was a good idea to make an animated movie about a bunch of dogs having sex. Um, Not amusing at all. And a whole bunch
Apparently,
of
that was a
other
passion project for a while too. That's the craziest thing about it. Like he was saying that that's what he wanted to do for a while, and I'm like, all right, bro.
I've seen it. I wish I didn't.
Ugh.
I'll put it to you that way. But there's a whole bunch of things coming out, some wide releases, include and a whole bunch of like wide releases that only would get a wide release in August because it's August. But we have a couple of films that we wanted to highlight here. So one of them was Nobody 2, which is the sequel to the pandemic era action thriller starring Bob Odenkirk, where Bob Odenkirk is an action hero taking out a whole bunch of people, but this time he's on vacation. So, Joe, what piqued your interest with this one?
I mean, I generally like Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul. For a while, I actually fan casted Bob Odenkirk to replace Hades as a live action Hades for Hercules, just because, outside of James Woods just kind of going crazy, I feel like he would match that manic energy, and he kind of has that head shape to kind of do that. Honestly, I just love Bob Odenkirk, even Steve, with Kung Pao. I love the Odenkirks and their blending of serious and goofiness. So that's what really piqued my interest. I granted I have to watch the first Nobody, so I feel a bit of like a
Fun
hypocrite,
time.
but from what I hear, it falls in that Taken, John Wick vibe, so I'm fine with that too.
That was part of my going to the Philly shipping yard, the naval yard, and watching films in a makeshift drive-in by the Philly Film Society era
Yeah.
of watching movies, and it was a fun time sitting in your car and just watching a whole bunch of mayhem. But Foster, is Nobody 2 on your radar?
I haven't even seen the first one. I mean, so I'm sure I'd have fun with them, but I don't know. The past like 2 years, I've been a little slacking with new releases, and so I don't know when I'll get to it, but I'm sure I'd have a good time.
Oh, I guess I'm the only one that's seen the first Nobody, but it is a fun time. So, side recommendation. One limited release coming out this weekend is Went Up the Hill, which is a new ghost story starring Vicky Krieps and I'm not 100% sure how to say um Baker Doherty Montgomery's first name, but we're doing it. But this is a new haunting ghost kind of horror film. But Foster, what piqued your interest about this one?
I mean, I this is kind of my vibe, just like creepy, atmospheric, weird movies.
Mhm.
So even just like I was clicking through all of these, I figured this was the weekend, so I was actually looking at it like a couple
Mhm.
hours ago, and I watched the trailer for this. I was like, this is probably the one I'm going to end up talking about. And I also like Dacre Montgomery a lot. I've seen him in a couple things. Just Stranger Things is the big one, but he was in a movie called Better Watch Out, which is like a Australian produced horror movie
from 2016 that's not like amazing, but is incredibly, incredibly fun, and he's in it too.
Mhm.
And I just remember him being completely different than he is in Stranger Things, and just being like, oh, so like he can probably just do anything, and
Mhm.
like we only know him as this guy from Stranger Things, but so I he's someone who's like on my radar as I want to see him in more stuff. Vicky Crepes, something like that. That's my name that I'm having trouble with today. She's obviously very good as well. Phantom Thread. Old, I'm like Shyamalan.
Yep.
But yeah, I think this movie would be up my alley, and you've seen it, so you can tell me if you
It
agree.
is a really, really well done, eerie, unnerving, atmospheric kind of ghost story that I think really deals with some uncomfortable and challenging themes. And there's a lot of unexpected elements to the film, and I think it's really worthwhile checking out. I think this is an IFC release, so like it'll definitely be at the IFC Center in New York City. I don't know how much it's gonna spread out from there, but if I had a portal, I'd be going to that place a lot. Be targeting it right
This
there.
is you being salty because I got to see Video Heaven.
If it weren't if it weren't a 30-minute drive and then an hour and a half train ride and then
Yeah,
however long to get there, I would love to go to the IFC Center a
yeah.
lot. But yes, Foster's considerably closer. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be that way. I'm just
No,
saying
it's fine. I get
I
it.
would literally try to invent portals just to go to movies priorities.
Yeah.
So there you go. But the one that I think across the board really piqued all of our interest, which is coming out in limited theater release this weekend and on Apple TV Plus because it's one of their films in September, is Highest to Lowest, which Spike Lee and Denzel Washington reconvening together. But this is a remake of High and Low from Akira Kurosawa. So all of that screams this is going to be really awesome, and I'm very excited about this film when you have the pedigree of a script you're adapting. And I trust Spike Lee with this one. Old Boy didn't turn out so well, but I trust him with this because I think this is a lot easier to adapt than Old Boy.
Mhm,
And then Denzel's one of the greatest actors of all time. So,
mhm.
but Joe, why'd this pique your interest?
Well, yeah, I feel like, I mean, from my experience, I don't think Denzel and Spike really know any wrong. I feel like just in general, they know how to work with each other. And I think when you listen to a lot of podcasts from a lot of directors that talk about, when they find the right actors that just understand what they're thinking, or, kind of like editors or anybody, it's a symbiotic process where if you're on board with what the person's doing, the process goes by a lot more seamless. And Old Boy, I don't even want to call as an exception. I just feel like it was trying to be big budget, but at the same time, still trying to be indie. And I definitely think there was something lost that I don't know. It didn't feel like a Spike Lee joint, you know? And even as a remake of Old Boy, it just seemed very confused. Whereas with this, I feel like it will possibly have his touch because Akira Kurosawa is not, unknown for American remakes. So in some ways, I feel like, the beauty of Kurosawa is that his storytelling is transcendent. Even to movies today, like I believe it was called Life, which was a remake of Ikairu with Bill Nighy.
Oh
Living.
yeah, yeah.
But yes. And honestly, that was a really good adaptation. Very British. Like, and to your point, Joe, his stories are very universal and I
Mhm,
think are something that work really well being able to adapt
mhm,
into other cultures
mhm.
because Akira Kurosawa was extremely influenced by Western cinema, specifically John Ford, which is why all of his samurai films make for great Westerns, because they were drawing upon that in the first place. But
Right.
yeah, to your point, like I think this could be a really good adaptation.
Absolutely.
How about you, Foster? Why'd this one pique your interest? Anything you wanted to add?
Uh, I mean, Spike Lee, Kurosawa, Denzel. I mean, I don't know.
That's an
There it
easy
is.
sell to be perfectly
Yeah.
honest. Like for any kind of cinephile, it's just like this is directed by Spike Lee, adapted from Akira Kurosawa, starring Denzel Washington. It's just like I don't even know. I don't even need to know what Akira Kurosawa film it is. Just give it to me. So there you go. So that one in particular, I think, is the most interesting. But go check out. There's a whole range of different kinds of films coming out this particular weekend. I think a little bit for everybody. So check out, try to see what's coming out in VOD, limited release, have some wider releases. But let's get down to business with some background on The Wind Rises. So this came out in 2013. This had a budget of $30 million and made $136.5 million worldwide. I can
Okay.
guarantee you that was not from the United States because I feel like this one was probably one of the ones that really flew under the radar coming over. But like, it's it's Hayao Miyazaki. His movies print money, to be perfectly honest, worldwide. And the fact that this is a very like very personal film about like an aviation creator and stuff like that, and the fact that this still made over $136 million worldwide is really impressive to me. This is based off of Miyazaki's 2009 manga that he wrote about this person in the first place, because he never actually really anticipated making a film about him, but he wanted to do this passion project because Miyazaki loves aviation. It's a fictionalized account of Japanese aeronautical engineer Hiro Horikoshi. This drew elements from The Wind Has Risen by Tatsuo Hori, and originally this was going to be Miyazaki's last film. I remember when this came out and he said it was going to be his last film.
Mhm.
Just kidding. As obviously we got The Boy and the Heron, which I'll be doing next week.
Yeah.
Um, this also caused some very bad political controversies in Asia
Mhm.
because it was heavily criticized for being anti-Japanese because there was a lot of, according, too much appreciation of Western culture in the film for a lot of Japanese people. And a lot of people were upset that this glorified a war profiteer who made a lot of money making planes that wound up being used as kamikazes in a whole bunch of elements of World War II. So, which this film does not really tackle that at all. So, there was some controversy around the figure that this film is about. This was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. Trying to think 2013. Probably a Disney or Pixar movie at that point. For that particular one. Joe
It may have
is a
actually been
and
2014. I could double check that to make sure.
yeah, Joe is a animation enthusiast,
Yeah.
so
And
he'll
I
probably know.
specifically remember that too. Yeah, it was 2014 for the Academy Awards, and I'm trying to remember what it was up against. I'll probably find that out a little bit later, but it's funny when you mentioned how at the end of the
Frozen.
movie, right? You mentioned this
Well,
being
it
his last
certainly wasn't
movie.
going to beat Frozen. So,
Yeah. Being his last movie, like there was a documentary that was coming out and they showed that last scene of the film as being this poetic end off to his career where the Italian that he's fantasizing about is walking away with him. Well, so
awkward.
so we thought at the time.
I'm pretty sure that documentary, Rowan, our buddy and friend of the show, has watched and absolutely loved, and I definitely want to check that out at some point. This was nominated as well for the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film, actually. So that's pretty interesting. And this did win Japan Academy Prize for Animation of the Year, which I'm pretty sure Miyazaki won like every single time he had a movie come out, which is no surprise. The manga had anthropomorphic pigs and other animals in it, which is interesting since this is one of two films that were heavily influenced by Miyazaki's love for planes, similar to Porco Rosso. Fun episode with my friend Sue Kate. You could go check out that one. The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann is referenced throughout the film. Miyazaki didn't want to adapt the manga originally because it was not appropriate for his usual target audience, children, because he never really had any interest in making like adult oriented animation. So he was pushed and nudged to wind up making this film. released at the same time as Studio Ghibli's other film, Isao Takahata's The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, which was also nominated for Best Animated Feature that year, too. Neither of which were going to beat Frozen. So there you go.
Yeah, that was
And
the film that it lost to, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty obvious that Frozen was going to win that.
yeah, this did compete at the 70th Venice International Film Festival, which at this point, quite a few of his films competed at Venice International Film Festival. Lastly, just a little note as a continuation from last episode with Ponyo, he wanted to make a Ponyo sequel. He wanted that to be his next film, and one of his producers at Studio Ghibli, convinced him to can the Ponyo sequel and adapt this manga instead. So, and that's how we got The Wind Rises. So there you go. But here's our little synopsis here. Hiro Horikoshi studies assiduously to fulfill his aim of becoming an aeronautical engineer. As World War II begins, fighter aircraft designed by him end up getting used by the Japanese Empire against its foes. I don't know if that's a great synopsis of what this movie's actually about. But
Mhm.
there you go, IMDb. You can't win them all. Yes, obviously this is directed by Hayao Miyazaki, but let's begin. Joe, what are your general thoughts on The Wind Rises?
So I remember watching this the first year. I was actually at the time I was pretty big on making movie reviews on YouTube, and
Hmm.
my subject matter was animated film. So I wanted to stay up to date because I had this segment where I wanted to watch all the nominated movies that year. And I think it was so hard. And I remember struggling to find this movie in theaters, and I was able to find it at an AMC that doesn't even exist anymore. AMC Hamilton, exactly. Um, you know, my general thoughts was the context that you shared about this movie really makes sense because whenever Miyazaki is making a movie, and this is what I love about that documentary, he treats it as a therapeutic process in a way where it's very much a meditative, creative process that he has the resources to make.
Mhm.
Yeah, he has his longtime producers that give him a hard time at times, but that's ultimately, the art versus the, commerce side of things. And to me, I always feel like Miyazaki manages to get the art to win. And with this movie, I can't say that it's bad. I mean, I do remember enjoying it when I first watched it, and revisiting it again, it's not at all bad. I would say maybe weaker, in relation to the other films that he has directed. But at the end of the day, I think his love for planes is definitely apparent in the movie. I think he always loves to put his passions into the movies that he is making, and there is some charm. But ultimately, the other aspect that I think, you know, kind of goes with the coincides with the thoughts that people have on who this person is. I think what is beautiful about film is that when you are making a movie and you are exploring character, you have to explore the good sides of a person as well as the bad side. And I think that's where the ending of the movie came into play to illustrate that he wasn't doing something great and has a lot of remorse for it. So do I see that there's a lot of glorification of this person that a lot of people may not like? Absolutely. But I think that's also what you are going to be challenged in when you are going to be watching a movie. So overall, I guess that's what my general thoughts are for this film.
Awesome. How about you, Foster?
So I was looking, this is the sixth Miyazaki movie I've seen. So I was never like a huge Ghibli person, and I only not discovered, I only started watching them like a few years ago for the first time. So like I don't have a huge Miyazaki or Studio Ghibli history. So I guess I'm coming at this from a slightly different point of view than like most of the people who would watch it. But I thought it was very good, but maybe not quite as strong as some of the other ones that I've really connected with, like My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, those kind of movies. And I was thinking about it because obviously this has an adult male protagonist, which in itself just sort of sets it apart from a lot of the other ones that he's made. And I was thinking, I was like, I'm appreciating a lot about this movie. At the same time, I prefer the like kid protagonists, like in the sense of wonder that can be generated from that. But then at the same time, like that's part of what makes this one special is the way that it is different from the others. But I think I appreciate it because it is different from the others, but I would not want him to do many movies with this sort of protagonist or with this sort of storyline that's comparatively more literal, even though there are like those dream sequences in there. So like I appreciate it for what it is. But in general, I think I prefer some of his other movies. But it's still obviously beautifully animated. I also like resonated with what you were talking about, Joe, the idea of the like art versus commerce side of things. I think you see that represented in the planes, like what is this plane being used for? But at the same time, it is this sort of piece of art that he's creating. And I also really liked like half an hour into it when the plane he makes sort of fails and falls. You can just sort of see in his eyes. He's not like crying or anything, but like he has this sort of like singular vision and determination of I am going to fix this plane, like sort of thing. And I'm like, if that's not like the creative process distilled to one look, I don't know what it is. This like, oh, I know exactly what I need. I got to go right back to the drawing board
Yeah.
sort of thing. And so like I felt like there were a lot of obvious parallels between this protagonist and I assume Miyazaki, even though I
Right.
don't know honestly that much about him beyond the movies I've seen. But I think there's a lot to appreciate.
He definitely, with that documentary, I think would be a great thing to watch in relation to the movie. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's horrible to like recommend a movie to tell you to watch something else as opposed to like the actual movie that you're watching. But like,
Mhm.
it's very when you talk about like the history of Studio Ghibli, they that does tend to come up a lot is his
Yeah.
relation with his producers and distributors, especially
Yeah,
Miramax.
I distinctly remember watching this movie for the first time because my brother got it on Blu-ray and I was over and we were watching this. Because like my brother is a humongous anime fan. Absolutely loves anime. Honestly, he's probably gotten me more into anime and was basically who got me into starting watching stuff like Ghost in the Shell and Akira and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure I probably watched my first Studio Ghibli film with him as well. This particular film was very different. And I remember watching this and just feeling like this isn't exactly what I was expecting from a Miyazaki film because it stands out. I think it equally stands out on the same level as Lupin the Third in the fact that like these are so very different than everything else that he's made in his career. Obviously, they're not similar in any shape or form themselves, but like in the same way they stand out. And also, I guess one of three films that had a adult male protagonist. Lupin, Porco Rosso, but technically he's a pig man. So we got that. But this film, one, I know Foster, you brought up too. It's like this one's gorgeous. Like the animation is always going to be absolutely gorgeous because it is Miyazaki and he would not have it any other way. I don't think he would release a film if he wasn't happy with how the animation looked. And these flying sequences are absolutely majestic and beautiful. And those are like for me, and I'm assuming for most people, like the heart of this film, like this is where it is in the sky, in these planes, seeing them like in the same way, like in 2001, A Space Odyssey, you have these spaceships waltzing through space. Like this is these planes dancing through the sky in the most beautiful ways. Another odd comparison I'm going to make is I feel like this is very like Oppenheimer esque in the fact that like this is about a creator who is so driven for his creation, but there is a whole other connotation of what happens with his creation and when it becomes no longer his. Obviously, I don't think this film tackles that in the same way and spends so much of the runtime tackling that aspect like Oppenheimer does, but it's a similar kind of idea of like you are so and it's in the same similar ways that like so many people who have passion for making technology wind up getting their technology taken and commercialized or militarized. It's a passion of being able to create something so beautiful and then what are the ramifications of how people utilize it in society and the damage that it does. This film has so many like singular beautiful moments and like that last moment like Joe you brought up with him walking away with this idol, this Italian man. um I don't remember if I watched dubbed or subbed the first time. I did watch dubbed this time, and Stanley Tucci is so great as this Italian man, bringing his Italianness to the table, and just that moment's just so beautiful. This has this whole love story, which like I didn't like care so deeply about. And I feel like that's one of the things that keeps this lower on my Miyazaki list. But there's a maturity about this film that's very different than so many of his other films because they are about children and the adolescence and growing up. This is a story about these dreams and how we realize them. And it has much more mature just setup in terms of it. And this is definitely towards the bottom of my rankings, which I'll talk about when we're done the conversation. But I do think that this film is a really beautiful film. And for somebody so passionate, and I can't imagine that this film isn't a vehicle for Miyazaki. Because what I'm probably imagining is he loves aviation. This is one of his idols of aviation. And he just took this man's story and warped it to be a vehicle for him to express his own journey. So even though this is about somebody else, I think this is probably the closest to a biopic that Miyazaki was going to make about himself. And I think it really works in that way if you look at the film through that lens. But I guess for Joe and Foster, both of you, what are some of the things that really stood out to you that you really liked about the film?
Well, I would say like the one thing that really stood out for me is the creative process. Whenever you're seeing an artist at work or whenever you're seeing somebody who loves their craft doing what they do, to me, I felt like that's when the movie was really catching me in. There was that, frustration when when that plane doesn't work, and you could really see it. But you could tell that that's like his passion, that's his drive, and there's something really admirable about that. So for me, that's what really stuck out.
How about you, Foster?
Another one of those like passion for the creative side of things moments. It's like only 30 seconds long, but when he first gets his job, like half an hour in, and he's just like working over the papers, and then all of a sudden the papers just start to flutter up, and then it turns into the plane, and then all of a sudden his boss is like, "Hello, it's lunchtime." Like I thought that was so
Lunch?
good because that
Breaks?
I
What?
know. And you could like tell just in his face too, like he doesn't want to go to lunch right now. He's like in the zone. Like you just interrupted his flow state. Like it was so perfect because like I don't know that I relate to that too much, but I relate to the idea of like I'm in the zone right now. Like don't talk to me. And so like I just thought that was a great moment. Okay, one like broad thing, just technically that I loved about it. First of all, the Joe Hisaishi score. All the scores for these Ghibli movies are like just wonderful. And I also loved the sound effects. The way they did the planes is like
Mm.
human voices and like people going. I thought that was so cool. I don't think I knew that. I saw it on the IMDb trivia before I turned on the movie. I wonder how long it would have taken me to notice if I didn't read it beforehand, but I thought that was so interesting. I don't know if you guys have read or know the reasoning behind that, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
I actually didn't know
I
that.
did. It's so funny because one, first off, Foster, you covered one of my segments on all these Miyazaki shows, which is the uh mandatory praising for the scores in all of these
Yeah.
movies because this man is an icon in composing music. And there's so many Miyazaki films on like I have a playlist on Spotify called Is This Batman? Because anytime I play scores, my wife is like, Is this Batman? And I have so many pieces of music from Miyazaki's films because Hishashi does amazing work, and he's one of the best composers at fully understanding what the film is, the tone it's going for, and just the voice that it's trying to portray it through. It's just absolutely excellent. That like meme from Emperor's New Groove just fits perfectly for it. But I did not know. Honestly, I think subconsciously I probably realized that what was going on with the sound effects. Like that just gives this film an even deeper layer of just personality. And those are the kinds of things you get out of a Miyazaki film because everything is going to be so specific. But Foster, do you have the backstory on why they chose
Oh,
to do this?
no, I was throwing it to you. I get you guys didn't even notice. Um, I think it's you should go back and just like watch a clip or like any of the flying scenes because there are
I'll
people
never
like
be able to unhear this
yeah,
the
yeah,
whole
yeah. I
rest of
was
my life
it was
watching.
so cool. Like just anytime it's basically just the flying scenes, but it's also the engines. Like what it is, it's just people doing like a low rumble, but sometimes there's like three or four voices in harmony going like like that. And like when you hear it, it's so fun. It's like I mean, like it's ridiculous. I don't know why they did it, but like it's you don't even notice it. Like it's
It
seamless. It's like really well done, and I don't know. I'm sure
kind of
there's
reminds
like
me of how I can't watch the last, what is it, the Last Jedi, or the one that Ryan where they said the character goes pew pew when she's shooting the phaser. It's like I
oh okay
can't watch that movie without thinking about her going pew.
yeah. It's like that. I almost wondered if it was like something that was like kind of like the sound effect equivalent of temp music, and it was just there,
Yeah,
like
that's a good
and then they were
point.
like, hey, this is kind of a cool, this
Yeah.
kind of works, you know?
That
Um,
does make sense because in animation, because it's such a long
yeah,
process that it's like good audio, and when they're making something new or they have to re-record something, it almost feels like you have to like do it all over again, which is why a lot of times people that do the temp voices for storyboards, they just end up sticking with them as opposed to hiring a
yeah.
voice actor.
Hmm. But that's such a lovely little detail. I guess what were some of the things? Because like obviously we both all of us were kind of pointing out like this isn't like top tier Miyazaki, but what are some of the things that hold the film back? You feel like from making this one of his strong films, strongest films.
I would say it's a personal thing for me where I generally have a hard time with biopics. I think in essence, a biopic is somebody's life, and unless you can really relate completely with what's going on, and because I love Miyazaki, but I think maybe with the context of what you were saying about this being something that he was really having a hard time to make because of the subject matter and what he's usually used to, I feel like you can kind of see that. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I think any artist needs to be challenged every once in a while to see where they can go. And I just think that's where it feels, lacking. It's like when you tell somebody who is mostly used to directing, dramas to all of a sudden direct, a superhero, like an indie drama and have them direct, a Marvel movie or like a big budget movie. You're gonna notice that there might be some problems, or there may not be, and then you get the Thunderbolts, but maybe that's a bad example. But for me, I'd say that's probably the one thing that's a little lacking for me.
How about you, Foster?
I think it's just as I don't know that I have like a list of flaws or anything. Like I think I actually find it hard to think of anything that's not very well done about the movie. I think it's just like I have trouble connecting, I guess, with um not that I like completely don't connect with the character, but that it's I guess in comparison to the other Miyazaki protagonists, I found this one a little bit harder to latch on to. Like you were saying, like with the romance, I'm appreciating it as I'm watching and find some sweet moments and some beautiful moments, but at the same time I'm not locked into it. Um, and same thing with his like journey as an aeronautics guy. Like I like appreciate it, but I'm not like viewing the movie through the protagonist's eyes sort of thing as I'm watching it. It's more of like an objective appreciation from afar as I'm watching this movie, as opposed to some of his other movies. Um, like if I'm watching My Neighbor Totoro, I am like on that giant squishy thing with her, and I'm like in this movie and in this forest right now, sort of thing.
I think as you both were speaking, I think I figured out what I feel like is missing in this film, and I think there's too much distance. I feel like there's a distance between us, the audience, and the life of Hiro Horikoshi because I feel the passion and the life and the vibrance in the air. Anytime they're dealing with the planes and stuff like that, there's something poetic and beautiful and masterful about this. That's Miyazaki. He makes all of his work so poetic and beautiful and just moving. there are key moments in this romance that I think are moving, but I feel like how the story is told, how the characters are realized, something just feels a little off. And it just feels like they're not as deep as they could be. And, you know, I would probably say this is one of his weaker screenplays. And I think that's just because it deals with a lot of biopic tropes. It deals with a romance that, like, he doesn't usually have romances in his films in this traditional kind of way. And it kind of just feels like a traditional kind of romance. Obviously, there's some heavier elements that are added in with the love of his life, but like at the end of the day, I feel like there's just a bit of distance that makes it a little bit harder to connect with our protagonist and the love story that he's going through. And you have to wait until the planes come into play to really feel that like majesty of what Miyazaki can do as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And but what I will say is this film is probably be the best film of so many other filmmakers' careers. And I think it's important to just kind of think about scaling here. Where like I feel like most filmmakers would wish that they could make a film like this. But when you're looking at Miyazaki, like I have and gone through his whole entire filmography here, this just feels a little bit lower. But there's things about it that still make it impressive. But I guess, do either of you have anything you wanted to add to the conversation?
I want to second what you were saying because while we were talking, I thought it would be pretty funny if I go back to the actual script that I wrote for my actual mini review for The Wind Rises at the time. I figured it'd be kind of funny to see what I said. And
Mhm.
it's funny when you're talking about the distance because I had this moment where I compared it to Titanic and I compared the love story in Titanic to the actual sinking of the ship, whereas you have this love story, which is probably more based in reality because let's face it, this is a biopic on the person's life versus just making up characters for the sake of romance on the Titanic. But there is this distance between, the love story and what's going on there, between that and what's going on with the planes. That, for me as I was younger, it was kind of distracting, but as I get older, I feel like it's not a make or break or anything. But I could see that being a problem for a lot of people in a sense. And then it comes down to like, well, when you said that, for anybody's big movie, this would be like their best movie. And what is James for a lot of people, what is James Cameron's most popular movie? It is Titanic. So in a way, it kind of proves that point, Shane.
Titanic is certainly not anywhere near the top of my
I
ranking of
know.
James Cameron
As I
movies,
said that, I was like,
but
here
every
too.
filmmaker wishes that they could have made Titanic.
Right.
And of course, made the money that Titanic makes. I am pretty sure anybody would have taken that. How about you, Foster? Do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to throw in before we wrap up our discussion?
Nothing major. Maybe last quick thing. I always loved the Miyazaki character designs, and I love
Mhm.
especially his boss in this movie, who's like a 2 foot tall Dwight Schrute. Like I don't know. I never didn't get a little kick out of seeing that guy.
And he's voice did actually did either of you watch the dub or the sub?
The
I
one that
watched.
I watched was dubbed because as I rem no, currently I actually did watch I watched both. I did
Okay.
watch both.
Foster, what did you
I
watch?
watched the subtitled for this one.
Okay. Because Martin Short voices
Oh,
boss.
oh, that's perfect.
It is. It's very funny. What's the craziest thing though is Werner Herzog voices the one guy that he keeps meeting with who's just like, we're looking at what the Germans are doing there in Europe. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's Werner Herzog.
Is he gonna ask for the child to bring in the child?
Don't be a coward. Use a puppet. I want to see the child. Exact words that he said to John Favreau on the set of The Mandalorian. Um, so that you know. But that was our discussion on The Wind Rises. This is actually so I have 12 films so far. I just have Boy and the Heron for next episode in my rankings. One of them's a short film, the only one of his short films that was actually let out into the wild. The rest of them are not commercialized and all only play at the Studio Ghibli Museum. And that is probably one of my biggest dreams of my life is to go to Japan and go to that place and watch these short films. It's quite near the top of my wish list. But out of his narrative films, out of the 11 of them so far, this is my eighth. I still did put this above, and I was contemplating this, especially because I really loved Castle in the Sky and Nausicaa on this rewatch, but I still put them this slightly above them only because I feel like he's doing something different. There's something very poetic and beautiful about what he brings from this like personal story and the aviation. Lupin the Third, which I think is a really fun time, is still at the bottom. I think that's very clearly like his first feature film, and it feels like a first feature film. But it's hard to compete with some of these like juggernauts of animation. Like my top five, like the top six, Mononoke, Spirited Away, Totoro, Ponyo, Howls, and Kiki are just like up here. They're on a whole other level in terms of animation. But Boy and the Heron was in my top five when I saw that in of the year that I saw that. So I'm very interested in watching it. I saw the subbed at my press screening. I want to watch the dub because I want to hear Robert
Pattinson.
Pattinson
He's so
do
good.
this heron voice. So,
Maito.
which the funny thing is, that's exactly how the Japanese actor sounds. Is the voice. So he did a really good job of recreating that, which was wild that was Pattinson.
I
But
think you're also gonna get a Willem Dafoe if I'm remembering.
there's I think Mark Hamill, Dave
Oh
Batista.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a they got some great
Christian
voice
Bale.
actors. But like I'll say, because obviously I'll be having I watched the dub for the first time. The actual voice actors who did the sub version, the actual Japanese version of Boy and the Heron, excellent, incredibly well acted. But let's wrap things up with some recommendations here. But Joe, what would you like to recommend to everybody?
You know, it's funny because I feel like I saw two comedies in theaters, and I am on that path of saying that I would love to see more, comedy movies make a return or like having more consistent like just straight up comedies, not action comedies or rom-coms, just straight up full out comedies. I mean, I put Friendship being focused on that, although it kind of leans more into indie humor, just Tim Robinson, but like my personal recommendation was Naked Gun. Just got out of seeing it with my dad. And to me, that's the movie franchise I watched with my dad growing up. We even watched Scary Movie 3 and 4 in theaters. And that was directed by by David Zucker. So being able to watch this movie and have the same laughs and same humor. My mom, she's a first generation Lebanese woman, so English is not her first language. For her to enjoy all the physical humor and slapstick brings me a lot of joy. So it was a great experience for me and my family. I'm going to be going back and watching it more. This is probably the best spoof movie that I've seen since Scary Movie 4, which is a very low bar because there's been a lot of crap from 2000 from oh my gosh, it had to have been like the late 2000s when that movie came out. It's been a
Probably,
while
right?
since we've seen a really good spoof movie, so much love to the Lonely Island guys for what they did with this one.
Foster, did you see The Naked Gun yet?
I haven't seen it, no, but I'm sure I'd have fun with it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Joe, there were a couple of jokes that got me so bad. So bad. I lost it at my screen. I can't even believe they made this joke. It loses me a little bit in the third act when it becomes a little bit too much like an action movie. And like, cause like the first two-thirds of that movie, I don't think that you go half a second without a joke,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
in the background or right in front of your face. And it's absolutely hilarious. Liam
Yeah.
Neeson is a revelation.
It
Um,
really is. I think the last act, not to get too much into it, but I think with the last act, because they wanted to make this more modern and be a be a spoof because that's what the Zucker brothers did
Yeah.
is they really focused on the times. And these are the movies that are coming out. So having an action movie that still looks like an action movie has like the similar budget of it with people that are mostly associated to action movies doing some really outlandish and goofy stuff. It brings joy to my heart. It really does. Pamela Anderson, my God, she did
He is
fantastic.
so funny in this
So
movie.
funny.
There's one gag at a club that she does and commits to that is so funny.
My
And
mom's favorite part.
for a woman, especially a woman of her age, to be honest, committing to something so stupid and fully committing to it, honestly, it's kind of brave in a way for a performer to like put herself out there like that.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. There's one gag, it's a montage that goes completely unhinged that I think is going to be a make or break it moment for the audience. I thought it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
It was very funny, but it did kind of feel like it felt like Naked Gun, but it did also feel like the Lonely Island humor. This felt like a Saturday Night Live sketch. And I was
Yep.
okay with that because I'm fine with that.
And this movie without the credits is an hour and 17 minutes. But then you have to stay for the credits because
You
they're
do have to
absolutely
say
hilarious. So,
they do a great homage, not to the original movies. They do a great homage to the original Police Squad TV series.
yeah,
And I'm not going to say what it is, but it is fantastic.
it's wild. So, big recommends from here. Foster,
Love
hopefully you get
to.
a chance to check it out. It's only an hour and 25 minutes with the credits. So,
Nice.
which is it's ridiculously
Sold.
refreshing for a movie in a theater to have that. And I didn't have to watch any trailers beforehand because it was a press screening. I was in and out. I got my press screening and it was fully light out. I'm like, what is this? It was a delight. Foster, what would you like to recommend?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of or caught up on a lot of movies I hadn't seen before over the last couple weeks. And the one I'm going to recommend, I'm guessing you two have both probably seen this. That have you both seen That Thing You Do? Shane, have you? Oh, you haven't.
No.
Have you seen it, Joe?
What is the thing you do? I've been asking this all day.
I don't even I don't even remember what that thing she does is. But it's the name of the song that they write in the movie, and it's a really good movie. It's with Tom
It's a
Hanks. He's
Tom
not the
Hanks
lead.
movie.
Yeah,
Wait,
he
it's that Tom
directed it.
Hanks movie, right? Yeah.
He directed it, and it's like very well directed. Like it doesn't read as like an actor trying to do a thing. Like it's just like a really solid movie. But it's basically follows this up and coming band who have this song and they get a new drummer who comes in and does it like double time against the wishes of the other band members. And they're like, "Hey, what are you doing? You're like messing with the song." But then it turns out he kind of made the song into a hit by doing that because originally it was a ballad, and then now it's like this kind of fun like Beatles style pop song. I think the movie takes place in the '60s, like around then. And then the song is called That Thing You Do, written for the movie, as were a few other songs. And the movie is just about them like rising sort of to stardom. And it's really, really fun. It's just got a really great cast of people. My favorite is Steve Zahn is one of the band members and is like just insanely funny in it. Let me just pull up the cast list as I'm going here. So Tom Hanks ends up being like one of the managers that they work with. So he comes in like halfway through the movie and is kind of like the big like mic drop casting sort of thing. And he's great. You've got Tom Everett Scott is the drummer. He's like the main guy that we're following. Charlize Theron and Liv Tyler are both in this as well. Ethan Embry is in it. Giovanni Ribisi.
What year was it made?
This is 1996.
Oh,
So uh, this is one Heath, who Shane knows, really wanted me to watch for like a year or two. He's been like yelling at me to watch this,
Did
and
he
so I
show it
always
to you when you were
he
there?
did. Yeah, he showed it to me, and I always like I get nervous when people show me a movie because I feel like there's pressure for me to like it. And so like this movie was
And there's
starting.
definitely pressure from Heath.
There is pressure from me. And I also I'm like, oh gosh, it's kind of a comedy too. And so I have to like laugh a little bit louder sort of thing. And like within 5 to 10 minutes, I was like, no, this is really kind of amazing. And it's like completely up my alley. And so it was like just a relief, like within the first 5 minutes to realize that this movie is exactly my vibe. Also, The magic trick of this movie, the biggest selling point is you're titling your movie around this song. You're building the plot of the movie around this song. The song better deliver. Like it better be
Mhm.
like the catchiest song you've ever heard. And oh my gosh, like they play it like 100 times in the movie. It is like it's like one of my new favorite
But
songs.
Foster, it's
Yeah.
because it's the thing they do.
It is the thing they do. That's the
It's
thing
the
they
thing
did.
they do.
The
There you
thing
go.
Not
they
Shane's.
did.
I don't even know what it is, but it's the thing.
The thing they did is the
They
things we
learned
did
their
along the
lesson
way.
from Meatloaf.
Mm,
I would do anything,
Anything for
but I
love,
won't do that.
but he won't do
mm.
that. So they do
Won't do
their own
that.
thing.
There you go.
Got to keep the mystery of it. So
Got it.
this might seem completely random, but this builds off of the plot point that you brought up, Foster, about them double timing the song. My brother sent me this video of the front man of Primus talking about when
Oh,
they the South Park guys reached out to them originally. The theme song he made for them was the what they play
Primus.
during the credits.
Yeah.
That's what he wrote. And then Comedy Central's like, we need a faster song. This is too slow. And he literally told them, just speed it up. And that's a ding, 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 the
Turning down
theme
South
song.
Park
I'm just
on
like,
have ourselves.
it's so simple, but it's perfect. And I'm just like, wow. See, this is why I'm not in a band and I'm not a musician because genius right there. There you go. But I'll go through my quick recommendations here. So, first one, new movie. I was going to recommend The Naked Gun, but Joe already brought that up. So, I'm going to give you a bonus one. Bonus new movie, Trouble Man. And this is on VOD right now. This is written and directed by Michael Jai White, starring Michael Jai White in a modern black exploitation action movie. And basically, he's a former cop turned like PI who's hired to find a missing pop star. And he knows martial arts because it's Michael Jai White. He kicks the crap out of people. He's sassy. He's charming. He meets a woman from his past and they're sexy as hell together. It feels a little bit like the budget limitations hurt some of the visuals of it, and that it feels a little too modern to be leaning this hard in the black exploitation. But it's such a fun time. Method Man's a supporting actor in it, and honestly, I'm not even joking here. I think Method Man is one of the funniest actors working today. Bad Shabbos, also a great comedy, 84 minutes, would recommend. Joe, it's playing at Princeton Garden Theater and Montgomery Cinemas. But this is Trouble Man is such a fun time. And it's like 90 minutes, and Michael Jai White should be a megastar. And screw you, Spawn, for tanking his career as a potential leading man because he has way more charisma than 90% of the people that Hollywood rolls out there as leading men, and he can still kick ass. Side
I think Christopher
recommendation,
Nolan. I think Christopher Nolan should give him, like he did for Dark Knight, give him another,
yes,
give him a resurgence since he
because
had him
he's one of the
play.
He's one of the mob leaders
Yeah,
in The Dark
Gamble. That's
Knight.
his name. He played Gamble.
Yeah.
Um, so from what you're saying about this movie, it sounds like Black Dynamite light, Black
Well,
Dyna light.
Black Dynamite's the very martial arts one. The Outlaw Johnny Black that he made is the Western that he made. And this is full blown, very urban, contemporary black exploitation movie that he made.
Uh,
So, like, honestly, he's a fun filmmaker, and I wish people would check out more of his stuff. But Trouble Man, fun time, good rental on VOD right now. This is a soft recommend and only for cinephiles because no way in hell am I recommending a 3 hour and 39-minute movie just casually to people. I will be talking about Heaven's Gate for the Wasteland watch list with our buddy Luke. This film is not like the fact that this has like 6 Razzie nominations. I did not watch the 2 hour 29-minute butchered cut that they forced into theaters. But if you watch the 3 hour 39-minute cut from director Michael Cimino, starring Chris Christopherson and Isabelle Bear, and Christopher Walken and Jeff Bridges and a whole bunch of other familiar faces, Brad Dourif. This is actually really, there's a lot of things to really love about it. This movie should not have been 3 hours and 39 minutes. Very few mini movies should be 3 hours and 39 minutes, unless you're Hamlet and you're Kenneth Branagh and you made a 4 hour version of it. But I think there's still merit to watch this movie. Um, if you're a cinephile. The only version that they have on streaming on MGM Plus is the butchered 2 hour and 29 minute film. So ahoy mateys. So I'm just gonna leave that at there. And my last recommendation, which is a rewatch of mine that I haven't watched in years, and I'm so glad I rewatched it because my wife picked this as nominated this for the Wasteland review request for my website this month with Small Soldiers. Joe Dante has made some of the most joyous movies ever, especially in the 80s. But Small Soldiers is such a great time. Whoever thought we need to cast a voice cast of monsters and military soldier guys, and we're going to get Spinal Tap and the Dirty Dozen and get Frank Langella and Tommy Lee Jones in it too. So all the toy stuff is great. The humor is great. The action is so much fun and creative. And then you have like David Cross, Jay Mard, Dennis Leary, Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman, rest in peace, Phil Hartman, because he was the best at playing asshole neighbors in movies. Cue Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
And Small
As a kid, I
Soldiers.
thought he was the same character.
He kind of feels like the
He
same
kind of feels like
character.
the same character. Like he walked off that set and came here.
Well, the guy's telling me, honey, that the angle of the satellite down to the orbit of the Earth is making it hard for me to get my signal, so we have to cut this tree down. I love Phil Hartman, and Kirsten Dunst is actually a lot of fun in this too.
Okay.
The soundtrack's ridiculous because they actually got Led Zeppelin, let them put music in this movie, which is ridiculous. And Tom Sawyer's in it, so automatic win for Shane. Big
I
Rush
wish they
fan.
would go if they ever remade the movie. There was a concept of them remaking it with like arcane style designs for the toys. Um, my only thing is if they do remake it, why stop at PG or PG-13? I say go for a
No
hard
full
R.
rated R.
Go full rated R, man. Maybe
They were
PG-13.
pushing the limits in this movie because some of the stuff that they did to people, like they had the
Those
corn
Barbie
thing
dolls was traumatizing as a kid.
voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar and Christina Ricci. So
Yeah,
on top of that, so this is one of those movies. Is this a great movie objectively? Maybe not, but it is a great time and a
it's
wonderful
fun.
movie. So check out Small Soldiers. But that is a wrap. But Joe and Foster, thank you both so much as always for coming on and talking movies with me.
Glad to be here,
Of
brother.
course. Thank you.
And for all of you listening, in the next couple episodes, it'll be a little bit interesting. I'll have my last episode with The Boy and the Heron for next week. And then my wife, Jess, and I will be doing a special episode of Honey Don't, the new Ethan Cohen movie, because I did start with the Cohens. And anytime one of them makes a movie, I will make a new episode. And then it'll be 60 weeks of Alfred Hitchcock. And we'll be seeing you from September 2025 until almost November 2026. And Foster's definitely in there for a couple. I know Joe is. Jess is going to be on there for the first episode. But things to look forward to. But thank you all always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.